good does it get, SK?
Why not Australia?
Today, live from the Pinecrest Inn, it's the Smylie Show. So long, everybody.
This is the Smylie Show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Smylie Show, where we have a signature event on the PGA Tour where Smylie was boots on the ground at Muirfield Village. We have to recap that. We have a major in the women's game at one of the most historic venues in the game of golf. And Smylie was a banner week for the Summer of Cotton. So all things that are happening in the world of golf that are noteworthy and important, and I just am looking forward to discussing all of them.
Yeah, no, it's can't wait to hear about your member weekend. But man, it was a great day to be a golf fan. Really weekend. You know, you got Jack's Place, Muirfield Village showing off. I know there was some rain delays and stuff yesterday that kind of maybe ruined the late afternoon golf watching experience. But Sunday was from start to finish. If you wanted to watch the golf from the crack of dawn, you could have watched it at 7:30 this morning and finishing up with some free golf later in the day. And then after that, if you didn't get tired of watching golf, you can go watch Primetime Riviera U.S. Women's Open and Nelly Korda winning her first U.S. Women's Open. So all in all, like for me, like I finished coverage and, you know, I had the CBS app open watching the coverage on the way to the airport, watched it the entire flight. So pumped that I had it on the flight. So I wasn't just bored stiffless. And then straight into the Peacock. It was
perfect.
It made a travel day go by quick, to be honest. It was kind of nice.
Well, just on a number of different topics there. Of course, after a weekend playing member and just not helping out my wife at all with the childcare, I come home and what does she get from me is, hey, can you make dinner while I watch all this golf for the show we're doing tonight? And so that
not all heroes wear capes.
Just like it's for work, I swear. It did bring back great memories. I was trying to wrangle Katie because this time last year it was the same tournament at Hope Valley, and I'd wake up every morning and she had weird sleep schedule at that point in her life, and we'd watch the recaps of Erin Hills, like the little kind of packages on Peacock. So fun. It was fun to see another women's major in that fashion with Nelly Korda lifting a trophy, and we'll get to that. Wild fashion. I think we do have to start on a little bit of a somber note, Smylie. And Jim Nantz did an amazing job on the CBS broadcast of sort of eulogizing the tragic loss of a CBS staffer in a car accident this week in Muirfield Village. Bryce Adair, a 31-year-old production assistant from Augusta, Georgia. You know, Jim Nantz was dang near choked up just talking for 2 minutes about how all 250 of the production crew, just the grief they were taking into that broadcast. And I know this is someone you'd seen on occasion in the TV compound on weeks where CBS was broadcasting, but you were working for Golf Channel, and just your thoughts on what this week was like and the way that impacted the people you were working with.
Yeah, man, it's a tragedy is definitely the place to start. I mean, Bryce only 31 years old, right? Like that's too short of a life, especially for a young man who, by all accounts, from everybody I've spoken to, just said he was the nicest guy in the world. You know, it's funny how life works too, is that, you know, you see people in the compound and you wonder, it's like, oh, I wonder what that guy's name and what he does. You know, you constantly just kind of run into people. And I've been noticing Bryce, you know, in the last couple times I'd work on a CBS show, and just that he was always friendly and talking with somebody. It seemed like he was a really, really great guy. And I saw him on Wednesday, and I legitimately walked away and thought, oh, I wonder what his name is. And later that day, he's in a car accident, and 2 days later, he's passed away. So it's just, it's hard to put into words kind of like how fleeting life can be like that. And but my condolences, of course, go out to his family and the entire CBS crew and all the folks that know Bryce. By all accounts, just an incredible man and going to be dearly missed. But there were a lot of people hurting this week in Muirfield Village.
Yeah, well said, and a great reminder to, you know, enjoy the time you have with your loved ones. And then it was another unique twist throughout the week as we could get back to the competition. The weather on Saturday, the cut play short, knocked over a TV tower during that stoppage. And what that meant was that J.T Poston and Ryan Gerard, the two guys who ended up in a playoff, only played 5 holes on Saturday. So they're originally slated to play 33 holes on Sunday, which turned into 34, which turned into 35, where J.T Poston finally prevails with a par at the 18th to win the tournament. And JT Poston would have had another 36 holes today, or tomorrow rather. I guess at time of listening or viewing, it is Monday. So today to qualify for the U.S. Open, but by virtue of this win, he gets into Shinnecock Hills. And so he was asked about this in his post-match or post-round presser, and he said, man, I was very tired. We would have found a way, but I sort of told myself in the playoff that this is my U.S. Open qualifier. This is my chance to get in. So just
little did he know he was in.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I guess that's right. Was where it got a little dicey, but second place alone, he was in.
So it's an interesting sort of run of play for JT Poston, because in the last 25 starts prior to this one, he only had 2 top 10s. His best finish was a tie for 5th in the state of North Carolina, which is home for JT. A tie for 5th in the PGA Championship last year. Last win was of course the 5th major of 2024, the Shriners Children's Open. But he was visibly emotional on that green as his wife and his children come up to congratulate him, and just kind of alluded to a lack of confidence and maybe just belief in himself, and just how he kept working hard and had a great support system. You posted on X about just how massive this win was for him. Give us a little bit of insight to what you know about the journey JT's gone through, the support of his caddy, Aaron Fleener, to get back to the winner's circle.
Wow. I mean, if you would have told me that JT Poston was winning this week, I would have thought about it for a little while and said, well, I need to go back and just like double check I didn't miss something in the last couple weeks that showed that he was trending. Now, JT is a player who I've always considered to be one of the better putters I've ever seen. It's very unorthodox on how he kind of goes about it. Stands super tall, has a little bit more body movement. If you listen to their Keith Mitchell episode, he kind of talks a little bit about JT and that. And I kind of think about the profile of players who've played well here. You've had Tigers and the Scotties all win at this place, but you've also had guys like Denny McCarthy. He almost won here. He almost won here a couple different times. And JT and Denny's game is similar to me. When they iron it well, and putt it well, I mean, it's weeks that they contend, and that's exactly what JT did this week. But as far as just his journey goes and kind of what I've been noticing from JT out on the road, and I remember having a conversation with JT, and he was working with his coach at Bay Hill, and sitting there kind of talking with Fleener as they're working. You could tell they're kind of working hard, right? Like nothing really seems to become easy. You see one shot kind of look right, the next one kind of looks funky, and you could tell just on the range like that they're kind of it isn't all quite there. And I think just any caddy understands this, any player gets this. It's like when things are just off, it's so hard to see yourself getting on the other side of it. And what I mean by that is that you might find a good round, but it's hard to find 4. And there's plenty of players that are going through that this season. Jason Day talked about it after he missed the cut this week, that, I just lack a little bit of the trust and confidence when I get out there to really believe that I can get over this hump and this hurdle of not just making the cut and just hanging out on the weekend and having teeing off on the 10th hole when we have split tees. And so for JT, I think that, he's found some confidence in a couple different ways. I think number one, a golf ball change. We've kind of seen a lot of this happen lately. Just guys getting into new equipment, and suddenly, like Cam Young.
Because the other thing's the putter. Yeah, it's like the golf ball and the putter, right? Yeah.
So like 132 is just 132, and I think JT got a little added bump with some distance to the golf ball, a little lower spinning golf ball. And then also, we played some heavy winds on Thursday, Friday, and we'll get into just a little bit more what happened earlier this week. But then the putter, JT uses, the go low putter his entire career. And then he switches to the spider, which we've seen, many players do at this point. It's kind of the fad, almost like, remember when the M2 came out? There's plenty of like the 2-ball. There's fads that happen on the tour.
The jailbird and the broomstick were the last two kind of.
The jailbird didn't take over the tour quite like the spider has, but it's a good callback there. It's funny. I was actually talking. I walked up to Brant Steneker on the range today, and I was like, Brant, first off, congrats on winning Myrtle Beach. And I am playing better if you would pick me as a captain. But anyways.
terrible start last year, injured all the way through, didn't have a chance to win that Major League Baseball season. This year, first team to 20 wins, first team to 30 wins, first team to 40 wins. It's all in the Atlanta Braves. Good baseball club lurking around here.
They still have some guys, some starting pitchers on the shelf there that could help them down the road, but the Braves are sitting pretty right now.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Christopher Sanchez is the right call right now. What am I missing? Why is Shohei Ohtani not right there with him? Well, is it the innings, Donnie? What is it? What am I missing here? Because if he qualifies for the pitching title and he throws a lot of innings and he leads the major leagues in earned run average and even whip, like, well, what am I missing?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all four.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.
I'm going to make more putts. And so I just thought it was interesting kind of hearing that from Sneds being, one of the excellent putters out on the PGA Tour.
Well, I remember Stephen Sweeney telling us about just the way that the grooves, they're milled, they're patented on that spider insert. It just kind of gives it a different type of roll that, other putter makers can achieve through different ways, but just whatever they're making, a lot of people like it and are using it for obvious reasons. This is a little bit of a tangent. I saw a stat on Zero Torque, which is the next maybe putter fad wave that's kind of taken over the tour about how much more
that I don't even know
it's
what
like
that
it's
is.
the center shaft at zero. So I mean, we'll have to get a putter expert on. Maybe we'll have to call up Sweeney and get him on. But it like just that the jump, like that there is mallets perform better than blades, but like the difference between mallet and blade performance, it's like exponentially greater going from mallet to Zero Torque. Like Zero Torque's like in a whole class of its own. I'll have to look up the stat at some point and bring it back on the show, but it's just that's a whole separate tangent for another time. It is interesting on J.T. Poston's putting in particular, because I think if you're a golf fan, if you follow pro golf, for the last however many years, they're like a class of guys that you just always assume are putting well. And he was asked, and again in this post-win presser, that he'd always been inside the top 100 putting since his rookie year. This is the first year he's outside. He's 110th. And he talked a little bit about, just that putting being a strength of the game and then going to a new putter and just having that sort of confidence. It's interesting, isn't it? Just finding guys that we talked to a lot of guys about, like Cam Young, about the setup and just looking at something that gives you confidence. You spoke to that already with Brandt Snedeker, but I found that striking.
Yeah, and he didn't really putt it well last year either. He's had years where he's been near the top of the best putters on the PGA Tour, but also credit a little bit of that maybe having when you're not hitting it as well, you have to put a little bit more pressure on your putter, and sometimes that can kind of bleed into your stats a little bit. I definitely have dealt with that in my PGA Tour career, where finally it's like you have a good ball striking day, and then you're like, I have to make this putt. Where at times when you have control of your golf ball, and you're just like, freewheeling it, knowing like, hey, okay, I'm not too concerned about being able to hit the next green and having a good look. So there's that element too that I think you got to throw in there, but. Clearly found some things in his ball striking this week, but the putter was a big reason why he's holding this trophy.
He was third in strokes gained putting for the week. First was Ryan Gerard, his second week in a row, first in strokes gained putting. It was funny. They asked him after about the relationship with J.T. Poston, given that they're all from North Carolina, and he said J.T. used to come visit UNC and sleep on Ben Griffin's couch when he was in town, which was a pretty funny little anecdote. This to me is a huge shift, because we've had Ryan on the show. We love Ryan, but we all agreed on the show he's a putter tinker. He's trying to find something that works. He's an amazing ball striker, and that was the room for improvement. You asked him about this on the show back in February, just saying, hey, how high is the ceiling to your game if you can kind of work on that thing and make it a little bit better? And his quotes were a selection from here. Dude, I think it's kind of infuriating because I hit it good enough to probably win 2 or 3 tournaments, and he's talking about last year, 2025, and just did not even sniff it. I remember Detroit, I think I was tied for the lead 8 or 9 holes into Saturday, and I was missing every putt. I'm sitting there like, what are we doing? I think some of it is I went from a more traditional blade style to something that's a little more mid-mallet, a little less toe hang, a little more back-weighted. So continuation of a theme here, Smylie. And I know he used this putter to kind of start the year, but going back and finding some more confidence in it, what are you seeing eye test wise, this change to see this huge jump? It averaged 2.12 strokes gain putting at Colonial. This week, 2.65 strokes gain, Muirfield Village. What are you seeing in his game that's changed putting wise?
Well, I think just committing to a putter is a start. Like he'll use 3 or 4 different putters in a tournament, so that's a good place to begin. Also made a caddy change right around the PGA Championship. That's something that I think was touched on in the broadcast, and I definitely noticed this week. And when you get a new voice in there, especially one that you go in to battle with as far as just being in contention, which obviously happened with him at Colonial, and then a week later happens at Memorial, you just start to get in a rhythm and confidence with the new guy in your bag. But it's funny, he has a putter he trains with, and then a putter that he uses, and they're both exactly the same. We touched on this on our Golf Channel broadcast. Todd Willis did a report. We showed the pictures, and they look exactly the same, except one has a perpendicular line, and also an alignment that runs across it that really helped him with his alignment to where he could just focus on speed. So when he gets out on the golf course, he feels like he's not finding his aim quite as much. He can just stroke it, and the puttering, like as far as the stroke, it looked way more confident than I've seen him in the past. At times, you kind of see different angles, and I know he missed this last putt to the right, but kind of gets swipey a little bit at times, and that blade gets a little bit open. And I think that all has to do with, just trusting where you're aiming. And when you make a stroke through the putt like that, typically that's something that you would think would be either an alignment problem or a technical issue. For Ryan, I think it's much more of just a trust problem. So it was good to see him make putt after putt after putt, really just over the last 2 weeks.
He had a great quote today. They were asking, in the immediate aftermath of the loss, of just, what was it like enjoying the atmosphere, knowing that these guys live for the pressure? And his answer was, dude, I love it. This is like my favorite thing to do, is being in contention to win a golf tournament. It's one of the hardest things to do, but there's nothing quite like the feeling of just everything kind of feeling a little shaky, but deep down that you're going to execute and hit a good shot, and just hitting there and striping it or making a big putt, or that kind of feeling of being over the ball and knowing that it's going kind of where you want it to. Those are all awesome things, and kind of why I love competitive golf to its core. You posted on X about how refreshing it is to watch him play golf. Just expand on that a little bit.
It's for a player that sometimes, like, the broadcast will even miss him hitting a shot. That's how quick he will play. Yes. If he's already got the club in his hand. I talked to Terry Gannon about this on the broadcast, and Terry, if you don't know his history, played for Coach
Valvano, Jimmy V, right?
Yeah, Jimmy V. He played for Valvano on that NC State team, and he was a point. He was a catch and shoot 3-point guy. I was like, Terry, you like Ryan Gerard. You know why? He's like, this guy, he gets the ball, and the ball's going up. Like, he's not thinking about what he needs to do. He just gets over it. This is what I'm doing. And he just hits it. And he smashes his irons. He has one of the coolest moves through the ball with his pelvis, and how he just think about, if your lower body and upper body are connected with, draw a line, like through the shot, like his lower body moves so far out in front, the pelvis and everything is so shifted back, and his upper body and his torso. If you think about the PGA Tour logo and what it looks like Ryan Gerard, man. Like, it's such an old school way to swing the golf club. And Scotty's losing his mind on Thursday because the greens are so firm, and like just a little bit of wind and gusts were making the play impossible. And so when I'm on the range watching these guys warm up on Friday, they were hitting some balls, but for the most part, everybody's chipping because they knew they're going to be chipping the entire day because nobody was going to be able to hold the greens.
That is
the place was going to be impossible. And all of a sudden, JT Poston's making an 8-footer to shoot 65. And I was like, what in the world did we just watch? You know, this guy just had potentially the round of the year. And I don't know what happens on this weekend if we see that golf course that we saw on Thursday, Friday stick around for Saturday and Sunday, because we got tons of rain on Saturday. It was over an inch. The place was a completely different golf course all day Sunday. It made it very enjoyable, you know, seeing all these birdies and not making it seem impossible. So I've never seen a golf course play US Open hard. Like Justin Thomas said, it was the hardest round of his PGA Tour career. And then on the other side of the coin, what we saw today, which was like, do they need to toughen out Muirfield Village? It's like I've never seen two ends
Just
of the
flips like that.
spectrum in one weekend. Just crazy, or 1 week, I should say.
Well, it's so funny because when you say that, I just think about this the whole week and the talk about the golf course, some of the stuff Jack said early in the week, and the thinking about Augusta this year, where like Thursday was crazy crispy, and then put some water onto the course changes. You wonder if it got too easy. This, of course, it was out of their hands this week. It was the rain, Mother Nature, that brought all that in, that made the course softer. I was talking to someone about this weekend, and I wanted to hear your perspective on, does it feel like this is built to the exact specs of what a tour pro would want in terms of a challenge? And I say that juxtaposed against Aronimink, where it was almost like perplexing to some guys, like the type of challenge it was, the way the rough was set up with no sort of grading to it, the way the green complexes, how difficult they were. It's like that was, I think a lot of fans and viewers enjoyed the Aronimink test, but it was unique for most tour pros, whereas this feels like this is the standard. We're going to separate the men from the boys. Like this is a proper test. Would you agree with that?
Oh, it's one of the best tests that we have on the entire year. Now, a lot has changed at Muirfield over the years. You know, Jack has, you know, played with this golf course a lot. Like he's got the bulldozers all out. It seems like every other year to change something. Is it perfect? No. Like I think a lot of guys, you know, when they talk about courses on the PGA Tour that have been changed, many times the players will always say it was better before. You know, I think you ask players about Colonial, you ask players about Muirfield Village. I'm sure there's plenty of other courses I'm not thinking about in my head, but those are the two that come to mind. And many of them will say, yeah, I'm sure it's better for the members. Now, maybe not Muirfield Village. I can't imagine playing that place every day. It would be impossible. But it's, you know, there's a lot of really great stuff about this course. You know, I love how Jack Nicklaus will give you on a short par 4, he'll give you a wide fairway. He's like, hey, we all you have to do is just don't fall asleep at the wheel. Hit this fairway with a 4-iron, or hit it with a 7-wood, hit it with a 5, or whatever it is. Get in the fairway. But then I'm going to test you with your wedge shot. I'm going to make you really have to hit your number and your line and the shot shape. And I think that's such a unique part about this golf course that I don't think we see quite often on the PGA Tour, that has this variety. You know, having 4 par 5s that aren't necessarily like gimme birdie holes, like very easily could be 7s, very easily could be a 3. I think players might say that the 5th hole, Dog Leg Right par 5, is a funky par 5. Is it the architecturally my favorite par 5 in the world? Absolutely not. But is it interesting? Has it, you know, seen a lot of different strategies that come out over the years? Yeah. Even today, Sam Burns is in the middle of the fairway. How often have you ever seen Sam Burns lay up twice in 1 week on this 5th hole? He laid up once from 225 and once from 245 today. This is one of the longest players on the PGA Tour. He's like, you know what? I don't like anything where I'm going to leave it up around the green. And I think too often on the PGA Tour, there's always a bailout. And I think at Muirfield Village, you're not gifted bailouts sometimes. And that if you're going to take on the shot, you're going to have to pull it off. And I think that's where maybe some players will say, you know what, we deserve a bailout here. Well, do you? You know, or why don't you just play, you know, just a little bit different strategy, play a little bit more conservative to what would be, you know, the fat part of the green 50 feet away if you don't want to take the shot on. And that I love that about this golf course because it makes you have to hit, you have to be so precise with some wedge shots, and then you have to be very, very precise with a 5-iron into the 8th hole of par 3 or the 12th hole at Augusta, which this is a great question that was posed this week to me, which is, it may have been brought up too in the press conference, to Tommy Fleetwood may have brought it up, which is, if your life depended on it, the 12th hole at Augusta or the 12th hole at Memorial, you got to make a par. Which one do you choose?
The talk has been about sports betting handle being down or flat, right, because of the threat of prediction markets and the growth of them. But we've seen Kalshi actually kind of plateau for the first time in recent memory. Looking at a graphic right now, we've had the spike for the Super Bowl, and then this is usually when things die down. Yes, there's March Madness, but usually sports betting handle kind of goes down over the course of the spring and summer until we get back to football season.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
For Abdul Carter. Hey, son, you want to be a leader? Show up to meetings on time. Don't be late to practice. This guy's sitting there trying to tell me that he's got a problem with Jackson Dart going to a Trump rally when he can't even show up to a meeting on time, and he can't show up to practice and he's late? Dude.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
This is all about headlines, Donnie. Yep. If we hear, if that noise gets louder as we get closer, then 45 cents is going to be 65 cents, and that's the repricing we're talking about. I don't need Utah to get him. I need people to think Utah is going to go up and get him, Donnie, and that's how you make money.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
Craig Carton along with Tyrone Johnson. We got great news for you. CraigCartonShow.com. And Tyrone, what do you get if you go to that amazing website?
Well, right now you can subscribe to our upcoming newsletter. You put in your email address, and then bang, you'll get all the new Craig Carton Show content when it arrives.
Not just that, you also get merch drops, exclusive content, and appearances. So again, one more time, that website is CraigCartonShow.com.
Decisive kind of decision there in a uncommitted golf swing, walks away, chips it up, doesn't make a par, or doesn't make birdie, makes a par. And there was another one that happened on 14. He hits the fairway, like perfect spot, left side of the fairway, it's a perfect angle, the back right pin, then hits it in the bunker from 100 yards. And I was like, that's weird. And the ball was a little above his feet, and I don't know if they quite didn't know where the wind was at. I mean, it was blowing like 5 to 10 that day. It wasn't like anything absurd. And so then they get to 16, and I don't think he birdied 15, if I recall. I don't know, he definitely didn't. And so they get to 16 and hit that shot, and he goes in the water. And after it happened, I was like, he's about to lose it. Like it just had been building up, and you just know when certain players are just gonna have to get it out. And we just happened to stick with him all the way up to the green, and to the drop zone, and with a boom mic, and heard it all. And so all right, so what do I credit that to? All right, I think we all got to remember that Scotty's got 2 kids now. That's something you got to throw in there. You got to throw in the tired bug. Is an excuse for a player to not keep his composure and handle his emotions better? 100%. Like, Scotty knows he needs to act better, and he's always struggled with his emotions at times. And I think when you're hitting good shots and ending up in bad places, but then also feeling like at times throughout the day, you're kind of fighting your golf swing a little bit, which Scotty definitely was fighting a little bit of his golf swing this week, which when we talk about Scotty fighting his swing, we're talking about like great to good, right? Like, I mean, he still hits it good when he's off. We've just been a little bit off. And so did we see some great stuff from him this week? Sure, but like there's a reason why he was. Well, the lead was at 12 under and he finished at 3 or 4. It's like, hey, he's getting beat by some guys right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think in just the evolution of, player caddy dynamics and just pairings we've seen in the past. Like I can remember thinking that the Cameron Young Paul Tesori partnership was going to be perfect when that initially happened, and then he's with a guy now who a former Wake Forest teammate. That's actually the one that's tailor made, and just and then part of that being the sort of mental psychology and the leaps that Cam Young's made in that department as well. All that stuff I think is just interesting behind the scenes context for people.
I think a lot of like amateurs just don't understand what it's like to be a professional golfer
Certainly.
and how long the weeks are, how long the days are, how hard the golf courses are, and how frustrating it can be to feel like, I'm so close to winning. And I know we're talking about Scotty in this instance, but it's not just Scotty. It's
everyone.
Most professional golfers at some point, have to have a talking to their caddy. And like my favorite line was always, especially if it was early in the day where we just can't get anything right. It's like, are we gonna do anything here today? Or are we gonna show up today? Like just like honestly, like waking him up, waking me up, trying to get just a little bit of turning our brain on to remember it's like we're playing professional golf.
Yes.
This is hard. And we need everybody's undivided attention to make sure that we get this right. Like you can't lollygag through the PGA Tour and end up in the top 10 and play well. So it's just
this
so
is
easy
not
to make
like a
simple
$20 2-down auto press. All right, we're not going to go sit drink a beer on the grill. That's like could be $100,000 or more that you're losing when you make a bad shot. It's a lot of pressure.
I get it that people say, you know what, that's like that should never happen, and I understand that side of it. But I also think that have you ever played professional sports? Do you know what it's like being a professional athlete and how hard and difficult it can be to control your emotions? I struggle with it immensely. I pulled the all like yelled the F word in my shirt as loud as I could, thinking that it would mute it all. Like it's just like a bubble that you need to pop. I'm just I was so competitively driven, and Scotty's the same way. And you just, gosh, it's so hard sometimes. And controlling your emotions can be the most difficult thing in the world. And I think for somebody like Scotty, who's got cameras on him at all times, he knows that. John Rahm's, he also is a player that struggles big time with that. And they always have these mics in their face, cameras on them. I didn't have that problem. So, but I still, at the end of the day, my wife would be like, you got to act better. I'm like, I know, but I'm sucking right now.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Easier said than done. Well, that's helpful context for people who could use a little bit of a behind the scenes look at what
that's why the wins are so great. Like when you see the emotion from J.T.
yeah.
Poston and you see him hit those iron shots in the playoff and in the regulation on 18 and like thinking about like the bad start that he had today. He's like, oh boy, here we go again. He's 2 over par through 12 holes or whatever he was out of the golf tournament, or not out of the, he's 1 back, but still like he had 4-shot lead to start the day. And it's right back into like, his caddy's thinking that it's like, gosh, are we about to finish like T8 now? Like how is this happening? Like we have a fortune, and then he shows up and hits the shots that he's been training for his entire life. That's professional sports and what all just happened out there and not giving up. And that's why you see all that emotion at 18 green.
2 other sort of notables that I wanted to briefly bring up here, because we've kind of slowed down on the one and done picks. We'll figure out the format of that going forward and how it's going to look. But just for people out there trying to keep tabs on the trending category, all right? Wyndham Clark and Eric Cole. How about Wyndham Clark last 2 starts, wins a Byron Nelson, finishes 3rd day at the Memorial, rounding into really nice form right now, especially he's heading to the Canadian Open this week. And then, of course, Shinnecock Hills in search of a second U.S. Open victory. And then Eric Cole's last 2 starts, runner-up at Colonial, and then plays in the second to last group on Sunday at Muirfield Village, finishes 8th, doesn't finish the way he'd like to on Sunday. But a guy who both those guys playing some good golf right now, and especially Eric Cole, we saw a couple years ago kind of him at the height of his game and then dip a little bit. It's nice to see him trending back in the right direction. You could say the same for Wyndham, really coming off last year.
Oh, dude, I think Wyndham Clark just might win the U.S. Open. I couldn't think more of his game right now. I think he's got that swagger to him, man. He's got this confidence about him. The putter went a little cold on him on the weekend when you kind of had to keep up in a putting contest. But he's clearly putting it much better. You saw what happened at Byron, made everything he looked at. But it definitely was an impressive week from my perspective to see how he was going to follow up the Byron Nelson and being that close to winning. But the one thing that continues to jump out to me about Wyndham Clark and even Sam Burns, I put them in the same category. When Wyndham and Sam Burns iron it well, their game just elevates to me. These are two guys that have tons of strength off the tee. They're mid 180s, high 180s ball speed guys that can be a little inaccurate off the tee, maybe an outlier here or there. But when their iron games are sharp, their short games are so good that it feels like they're going to contend. And you look at the analytics this week, Wyndham Clark had a great iron week. Sam Burns had a great iron week. And they've had great iron years, which is why you've seen Sam Burns contend so many times. And you're starting to see Wyndham Clark finally with the short game coming around, also contending. So those are Sam and Wyndham are two guys that are just like flying up the big board as far as two guys who are Americans that not only can win a major championship this year, but also potential, tour championship playoff winner, and guys who might play in the President's Cup and have good weeks in Medina.
Wyndham, of course, in the U.S. Open field already by virtue of having won at LACC. Eric Cole not currently qualified in the field, which leads me to Smylie. If the audience out there is listening,
Eric Cole's not in the.
Not by the less field check I did. I mean, maybe because
what was his world ranking going into the week? I feel like he would have.
He's 69th in the world
heading into the week. Yeah, he got in. If he finished T3,
yeah.
He's going to be in. Yeah.
Okay. I checked the field briefly prior to this episode to set up golf's longest.
No, totally. I was
surprised.
I was just curious because coming off of a second at Colonial and then a third at Memorial with all the points that were available, I would have thought that he would have been close. Now, it may be just out, but he would be getting in on. Is it
top 70 or top 65?
60 for U.S. Open.
60 for U.S. Open. Okay, yeah. So that's
16. If he's 69th going into the week, you have to think he's jumping
with an
10th.
Yeah.
You said he finished 8th? I thought you said he finished 3rd.
8th.
Oh. Ooh. got a lot of other things going on too. You know, he's just getting out here. He's learning the perks of like being a PGA Tour pro. Like I used to like build my driver and then I would have like go make the same one and then we would go test it to make sure it was. You know, like it's like these are things that you can kind of do. Like that's kind of what the manufacturers are there for, so that you always need to have a driver with you, have a backup head, have a backup shaft, and then have a backup putter with you. And then if something else breaks, like if a 3-wood caves, like those are all things that, you know, you can kind of get sent in overnight because all the trucks leave on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And so it felt good being an ex-player, you know, giving a little advice to the young buck.
Hey, buddy. Make sure you do this. So then help us understand that for the many of us who don't. While we get I was about to say, we might have to make this episode a little bit brief to make sure.
No, we're good. We're
back
now.
We're all the way back. Help us understand that for many of us who don't have access to that level of equipment, because is he essentially just taking different shafts and putting it in the same driver head he's using? And what you're advocating
right
is
into the
carry
same
two heads, just build a. But then wouldn't he have the same issue if one shaft felt a little bit different than the backup shaft? Is there inconsistency in production there?
It's I always felt like heads were always sometimes a little bit different, but if you're using the same head, theoretically, if you use the exact same shaft and it's built the same way, you know, apples to apples, it should react the exact same way.
Right.
Especially if you're just changing out the club head. Now, sometimes the shafts can be just a little bit different, but they shouldn't be that much. What you would probably look at the swing weight to make sure the swing weight's in the right place. But it shouldn't be too different, like how it's cut. Maybe I don't know. But I could promise you this: they're going to figure it out.
Yeah, well, that's why to your point, you test both of them. So,
and guess what? By the way, what did he shoot? 7 under par today. Almost shot 8.
Yeah,
Alex is moving up. Speaking of moving up the big board, Alex is a sneaky player who's as in form as anybody right now on the PGA Tour or in the world for that matter, and is a sneaky good play for the U.S. Open too, right? Like he's a guy that I'm not going to say
a hot start at Aronimink.
I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that he's going to win more than his brother in his career, but he is really way better than I realize. Like he is an absolute stud.
I still think that's one of my favorite just like checking questions is over under on 3.5 brothers on the European Ryder Cup team at Adair Manor, and then which 3 are going to be on that team, because it's anyone's guess between the Fitzpatrick and the Hoygaards right now.
It was a good week in Memorial, because like it's one of the best like practice facilities. And by the way, you didn't ask how many milkshakes I had.
I was gonna say you had 6 Buckeye milkshakes,
dude. I'm in there calling golf and I cannot get the straw out of my mouth and in between shots. I'm just like, I'm clicking the cough button, like, and then clicking on air.
Pains me. This like pains me. I want one of those Buckeye milkshakes more than anything in the world.
I mean, I was just full fatso mode in there drinking a milkshake, calling golf, and it was glorious. It was glorious.
I'm so happy for you, Smylie.
It was a really, really great week. And on to the U.S. Women's Open.
On to it. I mean, what a finish today. How about Nelly Korda? I just, when she hit that first putt, Bones was great to call out on the broadcast. Like, I know it was a different whole location than the Genesis Invitational, but I was just thinking about us talking to Jacob Bridgman about.
Did he bring it up? Did he bring up the putt?
He said, they asked him, about, is this a sort of a done deal 2-putt once she hit the green? He said it's anything but, because it's an uphill putt that requires a lot of pace, and it's tough to get the right pace on it. And so I was just thinking back to our conversation with Jacob about his putt, leaving it short, having a knee knocker to win his first PGA Tour event. And Nelly's was, I think it was, on the broadcast says maybe 2 feet 11 inches, like roughly 3 feet. And golly, that thing just grabs the side and rolls in for her to win by a shot. But
grabs the side, like it felt like it defied gravity. Like when it took off, and I said, "Oh my gosh, she missed it!" Like this is. Because I think one of the worst, there was 2 like really bad missed putts that come to mind of like women's golfers. It was the girl at the old place that Mission Hills. Was that the name of the place that they used to play? Like where they jump in the water?
Dinosaur. Yeah. I believe
remember
that's
the
right.
one like she missed that really short point, and then Lexi missed one like very short, I believe, too, at that same course. I was like, oh no, she did it. She missed it. And for a second there, I thought, like, people that have a blade putter, like, you were put on notice there for about a half second. You know, if that putt misses, all of a sudden, like, Nellie's going to the mallet. You know, like, she is, you know, when you look at her results and what she's done, not only this year, but over the last however many years, like, she's dominating, right? And if she's got to go to the mallet, gosh.
It'd be a wrap for the Blade boys, and girls, I guess.
And girls.
Be a wrap for all of them. Yeah, I mean, to your point on the dominating form, I mean, just the rate at which she's won to finally get her first U.S. Open win, and I thought it was super interesting, a broadcast nugget that Jessica, or her sister, who is, you know, obviously she's taking time off for motherhood, things like that, but is involved in her camp and kind of, you know, keeping an eye on her swing, had her make a strengthen her grip. Made a grip change the week of the U.S. Open, and Nelly said on the Golf Channel set, she's like, Jess was up all night long, stressed out about it, making this change for the week of, and Nelly feeling like on the range, you know, gripping it like, I'm going to snap hook this thing 30 yards left, and it turned out to be the thing that you know, got her in a better position to hit it great all week and root to this win. Yes, I mean, she's got a you know, her short game obviously is what her chipping ability just kind of kept her in it the whole time. But man, she's a champion. It was so fun to watch, and boy, oh boy, like, even if she would have missed that putt, I would have loved to watch the playoff with Charlie Hull and Gabby Lopez. Like, Gabby was like so fun to watch. She made so many big putts. The reference to Lorena Ochoa and just, you know, the legend that she was when she played. And Gabby played with so much fire. I just enjoyed watching her. Made a ton of putts, and then also Charlie, like, she got off to this crazy good start today. Eagles the first hole, quickest tee pickup of the history of tee pickups. And she, you know, obviously, like, one of the really good personalities on the women's tour. And I thought this week was such a great step forward for many people that watch the game. You know, when you get women's golf in prime time at Riv, it really showed off today on Sunday with a crowded leaderboard, good storytelling. Of course, from the NBC team, and Dan and company, I thought all did a great job. Just, you know, I didn't want to look away. So it was, you know, great weather, good week. Riv showed off, and you know, I look forward to you know, watching more.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Terrible start last year, injured all the way through, didn't have a chance to win that Major League Baseball season. This year, first team to 20 wins, first team to 30 wins, first team to 40 wins. It's all been the Atlanta Braves. Good baseball club lurking around here.
They still have some guys, some starting pitchers on the shelf there that could help them down the road, but the Braves are sitting pretty right now.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
For Abdul Carter. Hey, son, you want to be a leader? Show up to meetings on time. Don't be late to practice. This guy's sitting there trying to tell me that he's got a problem with Jackson Dart going to a Trump rally when he can't even show up to a meeting on time, and he can't show up to practice and he's late? Dude.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Well, the talk has been about sports betting handle being down or flat, right, because of the threat of prediction markets and the growth of them. But we've seen Kalshi actually kind of plateau for the first time in recent memory. Looking at a graphic right now, we've had the spike for the Super Bowl, and then this is usually when things die down. Yes, there's March Madness, but usually sports betting handle kind of goes down over the course of the spring and summer until we get back to football season.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
with Liv. I know they just finished up with Valderrama. Who won today, by the way?
That's a great question.
I have no idea who won.
I should know the answer.
That's
I think Tyrrell Hatton beat John Rahm by yeah.
Hatton's flying up the big board for the U.S. Open. Might just be the one and done pick.
Hatton finished 11 under, John Rahm 9 under, and Abe Answer in third place at 8 under. So there you go.
Just as far as those reports are going, I think just to sum it up, there's talks that potentially there's that funding that is going to be through the entire rest of the Live Golf season. That's kind of in question. I know there's some reporting that's happening on the ground saying that, hey, these vendors are being paid and are paid and expected to be paid if they haven't been yet. But there's still just some question marks from people as whether that funding will be a problem. So we'll continue to monitor. There's nothing that we need to get into heavily about this tonight, but just know that there are definitely, all the 2027 things that they're trying to figure out. But I tell you, that's kind of if they have issues with funding through the rest of the season, I think 2027 just goes like all of the pitches they're trying to make, like they can't bow out any more events through the rest of the season. Like that is a red flag. I know that they have good pitches and they feel good about it, but you can't have the season, stop for any reasons because of funding at this point. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think, it's just interesting because it's set against what Flushing and Golf sort of reported on Twitter with a lot of sourcing of what actually on paper looks like a very robust and interesting approach to international, mainly international golf, but still having some signature events in the United States that serve as major prep and right-sizing those purses so that they are greater than what you earn on the DP World Tour, which I think is a motivating factor. If some players saying that they drop below purses of DP World Tour, they would not want to stay. So it's
10 events, man. Like it's 10 events. Like it's just not enough golf. Like I just don't see how you can be a professional golfer and play 10 times in 1 year.
What he's reporting, I guess, here we are, we're getting it anyway, but he was reporting that the schedule will be 10 team events, 8 to 10 national opens, 5 team majors to be played on 5 continents in line with the most successful events: Australia, South Africa, United Kingdom, Hong Kong, and Mexico, and 5 team signature events to be hosted.
Wait, so how many is he reporting that there's going to be?
So what I think this is I think he's splitting out into buckets. So I think it's 10 live events, which are 5 team majors, 5 team signature events, and that it would also have some sort of co-sanctioning with 8 to 10 national opens. So you'd be doing your 10 live events, and you'd be playing another 8 to 10 co-sanctioned national
with
opens.
The DP World Tour.
You'd assume that, or the Asian Tour. I mean, it kind of depends on how they work that out. I don't know how they'd work out a deal with the DP World Tour.
You saw the Australian Open just recently, like re-upped with the DP World Tour. So like that's one that you got to cross off the list. So if it's like the Korean Open or Japan Open, I mean, sure, maybe, I guess. Like, yeah, that seems. I don't know about that.
Yeah. Well, it's just and again, we'll dig into this in greater depth, but I think it's interesting to see where like purses could be between 10 and 15 million, or 15 million for 5 events, maybe 10 million for the next 5. And that's an entire purse, which is like
you just can't be a young player and get better by just playing 10 times in a year. Like,
I agree.
You just can't. Like, you got to be playing a lot, and you need reps. 10 times is not enough. I don't care what the money says.
Yeah. Well, the young players need reps. I need some rest. We could all use a little bit of rest. We get up with the kids in the morning.
Same.
So that's all for tonight. We appreciate y'all watching and listening. And man, we're about to prep for the U.S. Open. That's right. Good call. Keep me on my game.
Come on.
If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on podcast, go hop on the YouTube and scrub it in the episode, and also like and subscribe and comment. But check out these hats Smylie and I are wearing from Imperial, because again, you're consuming this on a Monday. You can go to our social pages at some point in the day. So maybe check it at the end of the day, officially announcing the collaboration we're doing with Imperial and where you can go to find and buy these hats. So check them out, buy a couple. We got, in addition to the 2 that Smylie and I are wearing, there's also the tour visor with the logo that's on my hat. And then there's like a script Smylie show. It looks like kind of a retro, like almost like a starter style hat you'd see in like the 1990s. Imperial's done this great golf take on it. It's got the Smylie Show on and the small ball logo. So go check it out there. Buy yourself a hat. We finally have show merch, Smylie. We did it.
We do. How about it? Go check it out, folks. It's time for us to go night-night. So
it's time for us to go night-night. See ya.
We'll see you next week on the Golf Channel. This has been The Smylie Show.
I listen to this podcast. It's really cool. And
all of our lovely fans and subscribers, but make sure you like and subscribe.
It's cool to see what you guys are doing. I know golf fans appreciate it, but we do too, so please keep it up.
For all the good people at YouTube, like and subscribe.
You guys have some good takes, so I'm happy to come on and shoot the